Hello, I am Amy from moonmindology.com, and today I want to look at the coming eclipse. So we have an interesting stellium going on here, which is really going to flavour the energy for the year. So just to cover some basics, we have 2 eclipse periods per year, and this year we have it in March and September, and those are the eclipse points. And so we're looking at this March, and this eclipse is special because, as I said, we have the stellium in Pisces. So what does an eclipse do? Well, it shows you sensitive points for the year. So sensitive areas are Pisces and Virgo, and the nodes are at 2 degrees and the luminaries are at 14 degrees, which stretch over the Bhadrapadas. So what are the Bhadrapadas? They are the serpents of the deep, and they're also symbolised by the funeral cot. They are spiritual and they have this sharpness to them. There's a strong link to the Kundalini energy as well, so there is an element of enlightenment to this portion of the sky. However, enlightenment doesn't come to those who have not suffered. Why? Well, why would you be looking for enlightenment if you already had everything? Even the Buddha never considered religion until he saw suffering for the first time. So Purva Bhadrapada is represented by the cleansing fire. And of course, there's a sadness here as well. Although I personally love this nakshatra because I have it, and I know, that it's about the duality of things. But it's the irony, the hypocrisy, and these are very important elements to understand and respect in life. And Ketu is sitting in Uttara Falguni, which is about celebrating and marriage. However, isolation and loneliness is a weakness of this nakshatra. So there can be a type of desperation not to be alone. And this is another nakshatra that is represented by a bed. But this is the marital bed. So what do we do in bed? We sleep, we dream. So this is a portal for transitioning into a different reality or world. So you have the Bhadrapadas, which are the funeral cot. Again, you're traveling between realities on the bed. And I would say there is an element of transition here. So we look at the signs that are involved, and we have the 6th sign of health and the 12th sign of death and religion. Death is also another transition. Of course, you have the health element as well. And the last time that we had the nodes and the luminaries in these signs together was September 1987. And of course, we had Black Monday where the Dow Jones dropped significantly. And soon after, there was also a lot of trade deals happening. But then we go back to 1968 and we had a lot of assassinations, JFK, Martin Luther King Jr. So there can be problems when all these planets line up. However, the stellium is a rare thing. So we have Neptune in its own sign, so it's very comfortable. We have exalted Venus. We have a debilitated Mercury, which is also combust. So there can be extreme events with perhaps billionaires, communication problems, but also I'm not sure whether we could have some kind of financial situation. However, when we had Black Monday, there was a debilitated Venus. So, I don't think it's going to happen with an exalted Venus. Looking back, I've seen a lot of events with the popes of yesteryears as well. There were some deaths. We know our current pope is ill, but we'd have to look at his chart separately to see if he's in any trouble. Usually there are events or new people are brought in when this happens. And the other thing I have mentioned is the stock exchange. And I'm pretty sure that Venus plays a big role in this, especially as the London Stock Exchange, previously known as as Jonathan's Coffee House, that began in 1773, when we did in fact have a stellium eclipse in Pisces Virgo, but the nodes were the other way around. Still an exalted Venus, and then it opened properly in 1801, where Rahu was once again in Pisces. So there's got to be something going on here. So let's have a look a little bit more. So the US Stock Exchange opened May 1792, and that had Rahu in Virgo. So overall, there could be perhaps some assassinations, but I do think that there is a possibility that when it comes round to September, there could be some potential problems with the stock exchange. But I don't see a crash or, major problems financially for the people. But it could be a little blip in the market that, shows its head around the next eclipse in September. So what I do want to drive home is that Rahu is around 2 degrees. And we have that Saturn creeping up. Eclipse degrees are sensitive for around a year. So 2 degrees and 14 degrees. Then in September, the luminaries are at 4 degrees and the nodes are going to be in Leo at 23 degrees. So that is another sensitive point. So any of these points, if you have personal planets around here, just be careful. So Saturn will enter Pisces, and that's going to happen in April. And then around about the 20th, you have that Saturn crossing that sensitive point. At the same time, debilitated Mars is going to be opposing Pluto. Venus and Rahu are also going to be very close to that 2 degree point as well. So there could be some kind of event happening. So let's try and dissect this a little bit. Pluto and Mars can be controlling and explosive. Weapons, attacks, aggression. Looking at the signs, it's government versus family unit and your agriculture. So Pluto is in Capricorn. It's all about government, oppression and control. That's going to be for the next 30 years. Woohoo. Then we have Saturn hitting a point. So what is Saturn? Saturn is about oppression, restriction, death, aging, and things that are below the ground. So he is in Pisces, which is about institutions, crime rates, and even the poor. You also have Venus and Rahu playing a part, which is going to be extreme rich, luxury, and anything else that's going to be sort of like involved with opulent wealth. But you could start seeing a big divide between the rich and poor. Obviously an increase in crime. I mean, you could see some kind of civil war breakout somewhere if we're looking at locations. It could be in the eastern portion of Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Europe, England, even the Scandinavian countries. The second eclipse in September, that's going to be highlighting New Zealand as an area of interest. But that will be sort of like more over the next year. But either way, watch out for the middle of April and also in October, as Saturn will be going over that point again. So just keep an eye on that. But as I said, I mean, we could find that there are potential assassinations, big divide between the rich and the poor. So you could see a lot of global wealth inequality as well, and I think that's really going to come to a head. But yeah, sorry I've been away and not been posting much. I had a lot of personal problems, including losing my beloved cat. But I'm going to do a little piece on that because I learnt something astrological from it, of course, about animal ownership and when not to adopt them, which I think is always helpful to people. We love our little animals in our lives. Yeah, so thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.